Hey, what is up YouTube? This is the Mermail Master coming back again to the Team Time Riders YouTube channel. I am back here again, guys. By popular demand, you wanted to see the rest of his deck profile before we were rudely interrupted. And so now we are here with his ritual deck profile. This is one that a lot of you guys have been interested in. It's a traditional format deck, and it's basically sort of like a blast from the past. So anything you want to say before we get into it?
Nothing much. It's pretty much, it's 51 cards. I tend to like bigger decks because I like having a little more flexibility, and just having a couple extra cards sometimes does that.
And I think there's a couple of things that changed since we tried to record it the last time.
Major changes, like I don't know if it got through in the video that I posted because I haven't watched it, but Zork's out. He was already going to be out. I only really had him for Muscle, or Chef's out, because it's a nifty effect, but it's a little too costly for my taste, and Samsara's out, and that has to do entirely with the monster cards that I have. I prefer having something else instead of the Samsara, which was already in the previous deck. So that's the main gist of what's changed. It's a difference of about four or five cards. So it's just the ritual monsters, the ritual spells, and Samsara. So 5 cards, that's all the difference. Everything else in the deck is the same from last time. And actually, I wasn't really running Zork and Rishaf, really. I barely used them when I played big in deck.
Alright, let's get into it.
So we'll start off
with the ritual monsters.
So the whole point here is that a lot of ritual monster decks that I've seen out there, sort of recipe-wise, and this was after I built this one, focuses on having multiple copies of one ritual monster. It doesn't really have like a get them all out. So now you have the Demise structure deck, but this predates that by quite a few years.
As you guys will be able to tell as we go further into the profile.
So the idea was to pretty much, I don't have any monsters that are tribute summonable that are above, so I have nothing that's tribute summonable outside of these like ritual monsters. So these guys are the boss mons of the deck, which is ironic because relinquished that 1 star. So I got relinquished because it's a classic, and it works really well with one of the monster cards I have for ritual summons because it's also a 1 star.
Yep.
Shinado is muscle. His effect is not the greatest of the whole group. You know, if it attacks a defense monster, it gets to do the original attack to destroy monster. So a good way of piercing. But really, it's just that 3,300 attack points coming in. Ruin's a nice clear if someone's bringing up a lot of little mons out. So Ruin's pretty nice that way.
Yeah.
Got a lot of strength in that sense. But I pretty much was running her because she and Demise share a ritual monster.
Share a ritual spell.
So pretty much it's like run one, why not run the other?
Exactly.
She's got a nifty effect, and Demise is a deck clearer. If I can make sure that they can't stop the activation, it's a good way to clear the field to deal some damage.
That's really
Divine Grace and Garlandorf, I know are not as top tier, especially now that Demise and Ruin got some
nice
love.
Yeah. They did.
In the way with the Supremes, which, by the way, I think in an updated deck pattern, I think Supreme Queen and King are going to make their way in. Wouldn't really change the deck into a Demise deck, but I would bring those 2 in as a couple of new
This is nice. It's like toolboxing rituals instead of toolboxing an extra deck.
So, here's the thing. Divine Grace works really well with, say, like the continuous spell card, or say, like Ascending Spirit. It means that Divine Grace can't be destroyed by card effects, period. And technically, I can mix it up with some other ritual monsters if they're already on the field. Gondorf is a nice clearer in a different way from Demise, but it doesn't cost me life points. And I've always liked his art. So.
All of those guys look so amazing. I think I consider Garlandorf and North Wemco to be the spiritual successors of Demise and Ruin.
So, alright. Going into regular monster cards.
And show us the numbers of each one of these that you run.
Each one of these is 3. Except for these 2. Sonic Bird and Senju I run at 2. Every other card here is 3.
And you will notice that these guys over here were banned. But as we mentioned, this is a tradition.
They're technically limited to 1. However, when this deck was made, releasers were not limited at all.
Because nobody was ever running rituals, and releaser and all of the Djinns are great ways to make sure that you minus as little as possible from your rituals, I'd say.
So let me start by saying that a Djinn, they all have a special ability if they're used in a ritual summon. Presider, if the ritual monster destroys a monster in battle, you get to draw a card, so that helps really help work through your deck. Dissier, if it's used in a ritual summon, means that the monster's unaffected by trap cards. Period. End of sentence. No arguing. Blizzard Dragon was more of a staller card I had in there to have another 4-star with. It can select a monster the opponent controls, and it cannot either change its battle position or declare an attack until the end of your opponent's next turn. So it was a good staller. If I were to rework this, I would probably take Blizzard Dragon out to help up the speed of the deck. Releaser, the reason why it's limited now in a traditional format, which is what I would play, so I would have to update by taking 2 of these girls out. Your opponent cannot special summon. Period. End of sentence. Link, XYZ, Fusion, anything from the extra deck ain't gonna happen. Anything from your graveyard with something like Monster Reborn ain't gonna happen. Something from your deck ain't gonna happen. Is the word special summon anywhere mixed in? It ain't gonna happen. That's why that became limited, because that right now would paralyze so many decks and so many like quick turn strategies that are out there.
And with the first turn Jin lock, I think it's important to note with all of these Jins, the way they're ruled, you can't negate their effects by skill drain or whatever. It's like
because they're used up during the ritual summon itself.
Yep.
Not their effects on the field.
Exactly. Their effects are just applied. There's no
and the
way.
extra part about the Jin that makes them really powerful is that you can substitute them so you can banish them from the graveyard to use them as part of a ritual summon. So that means if a card limits you to ritual summoning in your hand.
I'm not gonna turn the camera.
Yeah, whew, it's loud.
Continuing.
So you can banish. So if that ritual spell. Oh, you need a second?
Yeah, we're good.
All right. So if the ritual spell card says it has to be from your hand, has to be only from the field. Doesn't matter. These babies, their effect kicks in. You can still use them from the graveyard to fulfill the purposes of that ritual summon. Because even in the most basic format, a ritual summon has to be from the hand or field. So these guys' effects can be included in even if it specifies just the hand or just the field. So that gives you a lot of flexibility that even if your field is clear, you might still be able to special summon as long as you got enough Djinis in your graveyard. Now, Senju and Sonic Bird are like 2 halves of Manju. Sonic Bird lets me search for a ritual monster. Sorry, ritual spell. Senju allows me to search for a ritual monster. Manju lets me pick.
Yep.
So that's why these guys are in there. Reason why I have these 2 at 2 as opposed to 3 is because they're a little more limited.
Yeah.
Whereas these guys, Manju, if you don't have 3 of them in a ritual deck, you're doing it wrong. Period.
Exactly.
End of sentence.
So good.
Even with the, I think incantations are out now. I'm definitely looking at them for maybe an update. Even then, I would still run 3 Manjus. The power of a Manju cannot be underestimated.
All right, so that's going to be the monsters. Now we're going to move on to the spells, correct? And for people who are wondering, I think it's really good that you took out Samsara, because Samsara would have sent the Jin monsters back to your deck rather than getting them to the graveyard where they can give extra benefits.
The deeper the punch, the deeper.
Ooh, okay. So
I'm going to start out with the rituals. I have 1 ritual spell per monster. So I have as many ritual spells as I have monsters. 2 End of the Worlds, because Ruin and Demise share. Ritual of Destruction for Garlandorf. Ritual of Grace for Divine Grace Northwinter. Shinato's Arc for Shinato. Black Illusion Whisper for Relinquished. Important thing to note, Ritual Destruction and Ritual Grace have special abilities in the graveyard. I can banish it from the graveyard, and if I remove Grace, the ritual monster, I can choose 1 ritual monster, and that monster is untargetable by effects that turn, period. Doesn't matter what the effect is. Ritual of Destruction, if I banish it from the graveyard, that monster cannot be destroyed by battle. So if you manage to do a whole matching the enemy's attack monster, you can kill it, and you're good.
So I gotta ask, how come you like just 1 of each ritual spell?
Because I only have 1 of each ritual monster. More ritual spells would mean more clutter. Since the whole point of the deck is that I'm not running copies of multiple cards, I shouldn't have copies of ritual spells.
Good advice.
If they stop it, they stop it. So now we're gonna go. I mean, like we said, this is a traditional deck, so it may be banned, but not in traditional. It may be banned, but not in traditional.
This has actually just come back to 1. This is still banned.
So these 3 cards, they're traditional classics. That's not going to change. I'm not going to change that. These guys are some of the main reasons why I play traditional. That's it. We got Swords of Revealing Light, and we have Premature Burial. Premature Burial is another one of those limited cards. Again, classics. The only things left to cover Fulfillment of contract, Ascending Soul. Fulfillment of contract works as a premature burial, but specific to ritual monsters.
Very good
Very
card.
nice way to get those boss mons out.
Yup.
If I were to change the deck now, I might take one of these out and throw in maybe a different kind of spell. Not sure. Still working on that.
And so,
Let's finish up with the last two spell cards. Ascending Soul is Samsara, but in my case better, because that means I can, for example, recycle a Manju, which really speeds up the deck. Now again, this was before the implantations came out, which really are top-notch for speed.
Yep.
But Ascending Soul really helped, because if I could recycle a Manju, or even just like a Sonic Bird or a Senju, I could still send the Diginis to the graveyard, and I could still pick up the speed. So that's where a lot of the power comes in when Ascending Soul hits the field.
I think even trusting you, like with the new incantations, we're going to trust that you keep the spirit of this deck alive.
I think at most, I'd probably take out the Blizzard Dragons and then throw in 2 Kendalls and 2 Talimanjas. Because
Yeah.
the thing, especially with this deck, getting cards back from the graveyard ain't really the thing.
Yeah.
Outside of specific cards that bring the ritual monster back, so like Monster Reborn, Fulfillment of Contract, Premature Burial. There's I think it's the Bookstone and the Penny Plume work about recycling it from the graveyard back into your hand, which isn't a bad idea. It's actually pretty solid, but it works better in decks that have multiples.
Yeah.
So something like pre-preparation of rites, great. Something like preparation of rites, aside from the restriction on stars, not good for a different reason, because it requires that one of them be in the graveyard.
Yeah.
Whereas pre-preparation of rites does. Now, different dimension capsule. I'm going to talk about this because even back then when I picked it out, it was not popular. It's still not popular because a lot of things call this Golden Sarcophagus bad cousin. Now, there's the reason why is because Gold Sarcophagus goes straight to the graveyard. Second standby phase later, you get that card back. Problem is, they know what card that is. I'd rather use different dimension capsule to play mind games.
Yep.
They don't know what I've picked. Usually, if you're just smart about it, you can pick out something that is not going to hurt you. I have plenty of searchability for ritual monsters and ritual spells. So usually I use this to maybe grab a Dijini, or maybe try to get my hands on a specific spell or trap that I think is going to be useful in a few turns. If I lose it, oh well, I wasn't going to get it easy anyway. But the best part is that it's mind games, because they don't know if you're grabbing something like, say, if you have field spell cards, something like a terraforming. So I prefer this to Gold Sarcophagus because of those potential mind games. And honestly, the number of times that I've actually had a card broken and banished is much smaller, because a lot of people would prefer to keep that breakage for the actual thing I'm grabbing.
Exactly.
So they're afraid to lose out.
So before you go on to the traps, I think that probably commenters are going to mention there is a card that came out for rituals known as pre-preparation of rites.
Yeah, I would run that probably. I don't know how many I'd run, 1 or 2. Like I mentioned a little before in the video, that one would work in my deck because it's all about being able to take things out of the deck itself. It can grab things from the graveyard, but the fact that it can focus exclusively on the deck works great for me.
Prep and pre-prep.
Like I said, like grabbing things from the graveyard itself, I leave to other cards like Monster Reborn or Call of the Haunted.
Yes, sir.
Old
Gotta
school.
love that call of the Haunted. Shadow Spell. As we say, guys, we're gonna say it time and time again. This is old school as it gets. This deck is a relic from the past, and it's beautiful for it.
It's
So-
still kicking decks bucks today. I'm at currently a 0-loss ratio with this deck.
And that is freaking amazing. Like, for a deck
I'm
this
talking
old,
about recently with recent decks.
and
The sad boy missing his pancakes.
I think this is a testament to your deck building skills before you got out of the game.
I think I did all right. I always believed in a healthy balance between monster spells and traps. I know nowadays people run like very few traps. I gotta be like, I love traps, so I feel like they're
We
very
all love
useful.
traps. They're great.
So, Call of the Haunted, classic. Way to bring back any ritual monster. Gotta keep it. Shadow Spell I like because it paralyzes and it lowers the attack, so sometimes you really need to break that beef stick down a little.
Yep.
So, for example, it really helps seal in that, maybe give me the edge to break something that I can't quite break with something else. Magic Cylinder is purely...
Self-explanatory.
No, this is purely a love choice by me. It's not actually one of the better traps out there, but I like it. Sakuretsu Arm is solid. I know Dimensional Prison's out now. It wasn't back then. Banishing, Dimensional Prison is like the banished version of Sakuretsu Armor.
Yep.
Solid card. I probably would still run Sakuretsu because sometimes I like to grab things from their grave. Scrap Iron Scarecrow, I feel pretty solid. Block 1 attack, and I get to keep using it. So that gives me a lot of runs. Now, I know Negate Attack has lost a lot of power in terms of popularity. I like it. I'm a little biased, but having the fact that it's the speed of the trap means it's hard to break apart. So I feel like sometimes you just really need to be able to end the battle phase, and its speed really helps. Waboku is an old classic. I feel like it's a good defensive one. Would I still run 2 now? I don't know. Maybe I'd run just 1, but at least 1 because it's a good thing. Torian contributes just to help clear the field, and on top of that, with my Diginis, doesn't hurt me as much as it hurts them.
True that.
Raikeki Break is a good remover. Protect. Well, I discard 1 card to the graveyard, destroy 1 card on the field. Good thing. Doesn't have to be a monster. It can be a spell or a trap card.
And besides, if you discard your Jinnies, you can still use them for ritual summons.
Exactly.
So the cost is effectively free.
Exactly. Finally, this thing is one thing I need to get another copy. I need to throw this into the deck. Ritual Buster is fucking busted. Every time you ritual something, you can immediately activate this. When it does, the opponent cannot activate any spell, traps, or use their effects until the next standby phase. Now, I have to double check some of the rulings, but I believe that because of its effect, it can really break because the opponent can't. Not only can he can set spells and traps all he wants, but he can't activate them until my next draw phase. So that doesn't mean the rest of my turn. It means his whole damn turn too. And the way the meta is right now, it breaks people.
And for those of you guys who were around during Necroz's format, it's when a ritual monster is summoned to the field, not just when it's summoned to the to your side of the field. So you may think it's slow, but it was actually sided in a couple of decks because a Necroz player would just summon, one of the cards that they needed for their ritual summon. You flip Ritual Buster. A Ritual Buster locks things down. It just makes it impossible to do anything with Ritual Buster.
One thing to note though, it's only cards that have to activate. If there's something that's continuously active that you never have to worry about, then Ritual Buster does nothing to it. So something like Gravity Bind or Burden of the Mighty, for example. Then that's no good. But usually for something like, say, Solemn Judgment.
Yup. Can't do it. It's like
unique
an
to
all-purpose
ritual
strap.
monsters. There's definitely a trick that you can't pull off with Synchro. You can't pull off with XYZ. It's an old school classic. And honestly, part of the reason I built the ritual deck was because I knew these new things were coming out, and I said, nah, rituals need love. They never got love, so I built a deck for that.
That's true. Well, thank you so much for the deck profile, Giulio. That was awesome. I think the subscribers are really going to love this. Anything you want to say? Any shout-outs you want to give?
Nah, honestly, actually, the one guy who said having Zork was a stupid idea, he was just muscle, and I literally said that in that same video. So you got to clean your ears out. Take a shower.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much. If you liked the video, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe to the Team Time Riders YouTube channel. We are growing because of you. This has been the Mermail Master with Giulio, and we're signing out. Catch you guys next time. Peace.